From the great Pacific Northwest in the shadow of Mount Olympus, well met wherever you may be, from the fields of Elysium to the frigid gates of Helheim, I'm Merv Gnomon, and we are Realm Walking. Tonight on Realm Walking, Patrick Boötes is with us to discuss his work of trying to unravel strange disappearances occurring in the nation's big box retail stores. But first, what they don't want you to know, with special news correspondent Richard Head.
The public school system in Geller, West Virginia has dropped the requirement that schools teach extrasensory perception education. The district decided last week to overhaul its ESP education policy, removing requirements that schools teach ESP Ed unless the state requires it. Right now, West Virginia law only requires that schools provide education about dowsing and tyromancy. If districts do decide to teach ESP education, it must be comprehensive and compliant with state standards. The decision marks the end of more than a decade of deliberation on the subject of clairvoyant curriculum, marked by heated arguments by parents who claim comprehensive psychic education will promote worship of long-dead gods among teenage students. We spoke with current candidate for Geller City Council, Garrett Fry.
This program has been a prime example of government overreach. The only reason they're teaching our kids about this is because they wanted to have a psychic link directly into our homes and lives. This has been their plan to undermine our values as Americans and corrupt our children, and the people of Geller are tired of it and won't stand for it any longer, and frankly, neither will I.
Since its inception, the program has been the subject of derision among a large portion of the community. We spoke with concerned citizen Daniel Hayward for his take on the subject.
No, I haven't ever really liked it. I mean, why do kids need to be learning about that type of stuff at such a young age now, anyway? A child shouldn't know what telekinesis is. It's sick, it's disgusting. They're trying to indoctrinate our kids at a young age, and I'm not sure what for. I know it's something. I know if I still had a say in my kids' upbringing, I wouldn't want those strange people teaching them how to worship the devil. That's my responsibility as a parent.
For an inside look on the topic, we spoke with Jerry Fox, an ESP educator for the Geller school system.
Well, I knew there was going to be a lot of pushback from the community on the subject, but I never saw this coming. I don't understand why the people around here can't see that it's beneficial to all of them collectively. It's just hard knowing that there will be a lot of kids missing out on these valuable skills because clairvoyance is now being seen as an essential part of the academic curriculum.
When we spoke with parents, we found that one of their main concerns was that you were corrupting the children in some way possibly, putting them in direct contact with demons, in some cases possibly the devil himself. What do you have to say about this?
I'd say that's a misconception. We've never had a student intentionally contact any dark entities in our program. There have been a couple times where a child has maybe channeled a lesser demon, but they certainly haven't never contacted Satan, except maybe Teddy. But what programs don't have their setbacks? Other than that, providing comprehensive ESP education has so many positive outcomes. Our students show the opposite of what these people fear. Students who don't receive ESP education are more susceptible to being lured by the darkness and use these powers for evil.
We'll be keeping our third eye on the situation.
We'll be right back with Patrick Boötes, next on Realm Walking. Are you tired of listening to your favorite radio program in the dark? The people over at the Tiny Corporation were, so they brought in the brightest minds they could find to create the Illumatio. The Illumatio is the newest shining example in the Tiny Corporation's unmatched innovation. The Illumatio has an alarm clock, adjustable bass and treble control, a sleep timer, a hi-fi sound quality 1.8-inch speaker, and a headphone jack. The Illumatio produces an intense beam of white light from a single incandescent bulb. Is it raining outside? You'll know for sure with the built-in weather band. Feel secure in knowing that the special impedance alert feature with its 135 decibel alarm comes standard on the Illumatio to inform you of any impending disasters that may or may not impose a threat. Additional features include a lighted display, full digital controls, a voucher redeemable for one free replacement incandescent bulb, a rotary tuning knob, and throw out those batteries because the Illumatio is powered by a hand crank just like all other Tiny Corporation products. Contact the Tiny Corporation and get your Illumatio today. Patrick Boötes is a retired security officer with over 33 years' experience patrolling everything from large malls to medium-sized parking lots. After retiring from the security sector in 2010, Patrick started his own consulting firm, traveling to retail stores across North America, instructing security teams on proper etiquette and the usage of segways and how to handle the constant, excruciating daily humiliation derived from, in his own words, an undeserving public. In 2015, during one of his seminars, Patrick overheard a few security officers discussing how they had witnessed people seemingly disappear in big box stores, leaving little to no trace behind. After hearing these stories, Patrick took it upon himself to form the Boötes Research Bureau, a task force comprised of retail security professionals from all across the country that investigate these strange disappearances. Just recently, Patrick has compiled many of the numerous cases he and the BRB have worked on in the past 4 years and written a book, Missing on Aisle 4, Unexplained Vanishings of Shoppers That Have Never Been Explained. Welcome to the show, Patrick. It's great to have you on. How have you been?
I would say that I was thrilled to be here, Mr. Gnomon, but that would make me a liar.
Well, excuse me, Patrick, but I'm a bit taken aback by that comment. Are you saying you'd rather not be on the show?
No, Mr. Gnomon, the onus of an author is to promote his written works to the masses in exchange for their eager commerce. I have written a book, so I bear the burden amiably, and in turn will take on every opportunity to bolster the act of vindication. The reason I'm not thrilled to be here is because it's very late and I have a meeting at 0700 hours.
I think you might need to find a new agent, Pat. That's a pretty big scheduling mistake.
That's impossible. I have no agent, and I can't fire myself. I'm the golden goose. That was a joke.
Well, of course it was. How about you tell us how you came about doing what it is you do?
It was 1959, a year that would set many precedents in our future. Castro took power in Cuba. The communists in China ran the Dalai Lama out of Tibet. Alaska and Hawaii both became states. The Soviet Union attacked and declared war upon the moon. And Mattel unleashed Barbie upon the face of the earth.
And what does this have to do with missing shoppers?
If you'd let me finish, you'd know that also in 1959, March 13th to be exact, I was born into this world, son to Mr. and Mrs. Horace Boötes of Wahoo, Nebraska.
Okay.
I was taught that if you were going to tell a story, especially one of a grand nature, that you should give it a proper introduction. You've asked me of my life's work, Mr. Gnomon. I believe the delineation of such a consequential and personal tale as this deserves a preamble of sorts.
That's fine, go ahead.
Thank you. As an adolescent, I joined the Scouts, but soon found that it wasn't quite the organization I'd been led to believe it was. I left the group finding it feeble and lacking. Their motto was and is be prepared. That wasn't enough for me. So at 10, I left the organization and adopted a new motto. Always be prepared.
So, disappointed by
Betrayed, sir.
Okay, betrayed by the Scouts, you decide to leave and add one word to their motto. Patrick, again, how is this significant to people missing in retail stores?
Because, Mr. Gnomon, always changes everything. Always is what brought me to where I am today. Always is always, not sometimes, not seldom, not never, always, Mr. Gnomon.
Right, that's wonderful, but for the sake of time, can we just jump ahead a few years here?
Not a problem, Mr. Gnomon. In 1977, at the age of 18, I tried to join the armed forces. I won't say which branch to save them the embarrassment of turning me down.
So the military rejected you?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a rejection, it was more of a courteous refusal.
Oh.
I believe they could see that I was set apart from the majority of the general populace and that I was indeed destined for greater endeavors in life.
Like studying missing shoppers from big box stores?
We'll get to that. A month later, I applied for the post of police officer but wasn't granted the position.
Another courteous refusal?
No, sir, another betrayal, much like that at the hands of the Scouts.
Okay, so from there you found your place in the security sector, correct?
Affirmative. I began my career in parking security and worked my way up from there. It's a real heartening grassroots story of over 30 years of courageous valor and great feats of strength, both mental and physical.
I've lived the hero's journey, Mr. Gnomon, and I would be elated to share that story with you and your listeners. Maybe next time, Pat. How about you tell us about that task force you started? How'd all that come about? When I retired from the security sector, I found I'd focused my entire life on resilience against any potential threats. But there was one threat I hadn't counted on. And what was that? Leisure. Go on. You see, over the years, I devoted myself to my work. My hobbies were security and securing things. I'd never taken up anything like philately or mailbox photography. I'd never had room in my life for the supplementary excitement such things can bring. Well, what about always be prepared? I will admit it was an oversight. It was a dark time and I'd rather not speak of it. So what'd you do? I started a consulting firm. Security consulting, of course. I traveled across this great nation of ours, educating individuals who've answered the call of duty that so many are deaf to. Honesty, integrity, and trust. These are the three core values of duty. I call them the triumvirate of virtue. You know what? That's actually kind of nice. I know. That's why I named it that. So, you're going from state to state, and town to town, teaching your triumvirate of virtue. Is this how you found out about all those missing shoppers? How very astute of you, Mr. Gnomon. I think you may have the mettle of a security man in you. Well, to be honest, it was the obvious question. I've read your biography. But it was the right question, and that's what matters. Right. Yes, it was at one of my seminars that I first heard of the disappearances. I had just finished the first 3 hours of my lecture, and we were in the first intermission. Oh, I believe it. I had some time on my hands, so I was partaking in a bit of R&R, recreational reconnaissance. It's a technique that I use at my events to demonstrate my expertise. It also comes in handy to make sure that none of the attendees are planning a revolt. I noticed that there was a gathering of about 10 individuals in Sector 7 of the room, usually a sure sign of mutiny. So I bear-crawled my way under the folding chairs from my lectern in Sector 1. My approach was flawless, as I was completely undetected by the group. As I climbed from under the back row, I approached to within mere inches of the group and crouched just below their line of sight. Virtually invisible. I was the wind, Mr. Gnomon. I was a shadow. What were they talking about? One man from Florida, if my memory serves correctly, and it does, was relaying the story of a distressed mother who had lost her child in the store where he was employed. Every parent's nightmare. Is it? I wouldn't know. The mother had been shopping in the store for hours, so long that even she had forgotten what time it was that she had entered, but this is a common occurrence in retail and is of little significance to the story. Right, that's understandable. After a few hours of aimlessly walking from aisle to aisle, she noticed her son was no longer in her possession. The woman, now seemingly in distress, proceeded to cause a huge disruption in the women's intimates department, going from person to person asking if they had seen her child, as if it were their responsibility to keep up with it and not hers. This continued for approximately 10 minutes until security was notified that there was a disturbance and escorted the subject to the customer service desk, where she then explained the situation to them and they took up the hunt for her missing child. So they didn't call the police right away whenever they heard about this missing child? Not yet. That isn't part of the store policy. Oh, I see. Store policy would be to take a description of the child and lock down all exterior access points, allowing no one to enter or exit the scene. An employee would then make a page letting everyone know there's a missing child. They would then give a description of the child and then the hunt would be on. If they do not find the child in a timely manner, then the local authorities are called. So that's what they did in this case. In this case, they took a description of the child and locked down all exterior access points, allowing no one to enter or exit the scene. An employee made a page letting everyone know that there was a missing child and gave a description of the child, and the hunt was on. That's exactly what you just said. Mr. Gnomon, did you or did you not ask if that's what they did in this case? Well, yeah, but a simple yes or no would have sufficed. That's store policy. These are trained security professionals that we're talking about here. Of course that's what they did. It was store policy. These are men and women who are out there in the thick of it every day, sir, and I find it offensive that you don't have enough respect to think that they wouldn't follow to a T the occupational requirements that they have given an oath to uphold. So no, Mr. Gnomon, a yes or no would not suffice in this case.
I mean, honestly.
I would ask the gentleman to apologize.
Pat, I'm sorry. I meant no offense. Do you want to continue your story?
Thank you, Mr. Gnomon. I'm very passionate about my work.
That's very evident.
As I was saying, the hunt was on. All essential personnel are mobilized in the case of a missing child. Even the door greeters get to be involved. They searched in every conceivable area of the store twice, and gave even the unconceivable areas a thorough once-over. There was neither hide nor hair of this child to be found in the store.
That's just terrible. I mean, terrible. What'd they do next?
They had to inform the mother that they couldn't find her child.
I couldn't even imagine how hard that had to be.
It is the worst part of the job.
It's gotta be hard giving that type of information to a parent who's already in such distress, Patrick. It's just horrible. That's what it is. It's horrible.
Oh, you mean the parent. I thought you meant the crushing humiliation of defeat and admitting you couldn't find a child, but yes, I'm sure it was upsetting for the mother also.
How'd she take the news? The mother, I mean.
They didn't get a chance to tell her.
What do you mean, didn't get a chance to tell her?
As soon as the team got back to customer service, the child comes walking back up like nothing had ever happened.
You can't be serious.
Mr. Gnomon, I've been nothing but serious since 1969. The kid walked up and asked him what was going on.
Well, where'd he been?
They asked him why he was hiding and why he didn't come out when he heard the pages on the overhead. He said he'd been in the electronics department the entire time playing video games on the demo display and had never heard any of the pages. Electronics is a hotbed of youth activity in a retail setting, and that department had been checked numerous times during the search and rescue mission. There's no way that the qualified individuals conducting the search would have missed him. They thought this kid was dead, but here he is, Johnny-come-lately to the party with no memory of ever being missing.
Unbelievable.
Now, Mr. Gnomon, you tell me, where was this boy?
I couldn't even begin to guess, Pat. I guess it could have been anything from a temporary temporal displacement to something as common as an alien abduction. I'm just glad we got a happy ending and he was reunited with his mother.
For a little while, at least. CPS was contacted and he left in a different car than his mother when all was said and done.
Jesus.
You can't just lose a child in public and expect to get away with it, Mr. Gnomon. We live in a society, and in this society there are rules.
Well, you're not wrong. So was I hearing this story what brought you to create the BRB?
It was. After hearing about such a strange event, and many others after that, I knew that someone had to look further into these phenomena that were seemingly happening across retaildom. I started the BRB 2 months after hearing the first report from the seminar, and we began investigating claims immediately. Our first case we were officially involved in I like to call the Wichita Withdrawal. The BRB had received a call from a loss prevention director in Kansas. He reported that in recent months their sales floor workers had been finding disembodied shopping carts full of stock left abandoned around various departments of the store with no trace of the previous handler. This was happening on a daily basis, so as you can imagine, the client was becoming a bit unnerved by the whole situation. When the team and I arrived in Kansas, the first thing we did was make contact with the client in his store. While there, we were able to witness firsthand one of the lone carts. Mr. Gnomon, when I tell you that I've never had such a chill run down my spine...
Patrick, I'm sorry, but we're over time and we have to take this break right now. We'll be right back with Patrick Boötes and your calls on Realm Walking.
Looking for the latest in paranormal apparel? Go to realmwalking.neocities.org and click on the store link to browse through the spooky offerings in the official merch store of Realm Walking with Merv Gnomon.
Hey, I'm Ronnie.
Did you know the copper's one of the easiest things to find? And it's really good for a quick buck. If you're looking for some quick, good folding money to put in your pocket, then why don't you look into some copper? Hell, it's in just about everything. It's in radiators, power tools, ice boxes, old plumbing, and mama's window unit. Why don't you go ahead and find out why copper is Billy from under the overpass's favorite investment? Well, copper's my favorite investment because it makes me a good chunk of change, and it sure beats the hell out of picking up cans. Well, let's look over yonder and see what Screaming Willie's got to say about the copper. You call me, Ronnie Warren, owner and operator of Ronnie Warren Holding Group today, and get your special report. Copper is a gold mine, and a free expert cassette tape. Find out how to source copper and learn the risk and dangers of liberating it from an electrical substation. The first 50 callers or so also get a guide on income diversification through corn liquor and tips on how to avoid the revenue man. Copper's where it's at, y'all. Y'all best get y'all some.
Can't sleep? Then our spells must be working. You're listening to Realm Walking with Merv Gnomon.
I'm here with Patrick Boötes, director of the BRB and author of Missing on Aisle 4, Unexplained Vanishings of Shoppers That Have Never Been Explained. Ready to take some calls, Pat?
Actually, I'd like to finish my story if
North
I
of
could.
the 33rd, you're Realm Walking.
Hey, Merv, this is Dave in Twin Falls.
Good to hear from you, Dave. What question you got for Pat tonight?
Hiya, Pat. I was wondering if you were still running that scout trip you started.
I am not.
Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping to sign my boy up. His therapist said it'd be good to find him a few extracurricular activities to keep him out of trouble since the fires. Why did you stop doing it, if you don't mind me asking?
Because I taught myself everything that I needed to know. And your son sounds like a very, very disturbing individual.
South of the 33rd parallel, you're Realm Walking.
How y'all doing tonight?
Just great.
Sufficient.
Good, good. Mr. Boötes, I was wondering, do you think that the loan carts that are being left in the stores could just be because people got frustrated and left?
I'm sorry, sir, I don't quite understand what you mean.
Do you think it could be that maybe there was a situation where only one or two registers were open and the line was backed up so far that the person got fed up and just left the cart where it was?
You mean to say that they just walked out without purchasing their provisions they had acquired? Why would anyone be so wasteful with their time?
Well, sometimes the wait just isn't worth it.
Sir, this is a serious situation that is taking place within the retail stores all across this great nation of ours, and I would appreciate that you would treat this with the significance a situation such as this calls for. And I find your attempted humor asinine and juvenile in nature, and I would suggest that you find a place to reflect on your actions and reassess the direction of your moral compass.
I just thought that maybe this was a good explanation.
Please, sir, next time leave the explaining to the professionals, thank you.
That's a bit harsh there, huh, Pat?
No, Mr. Gnomon, I don't believe so. You can't have people going around throwing out wild theories about things they know nothing about. After half a decade of research, the BRB and I have formed a very unique view of these cases. We understand the unseen inner workings that are going on just below the surface of each situation that the average person wouldn't even know to look for. I don't have time for wild theories like this being brought up to the public to be misconstrued as fact.
All right, moving right along, Madcap Line, you're Realm Walking.
Merv,
Listen, caller.
the bananas are green.
You got some pretty good mileage out of this, Joe, but don't you think it's time
The
to...
bananas are green, Merv.
And he hung up.
You should trace the source of that call.
Maybe next time, Pat. North of the 33rd, you're Realm Walking.
Hey, great show tonight, Merv.
Thank you, caller. Yeah, I had a question for Mr. Boötes. What do you think is happening to these people? What's taking them, and where they going with them?
Patrick.
The BRB's official stance is that we don't know what is causing people to go missing in retail stores across the country. We've decided to hold off on making any statements until we have concrete evidence on what is causing these people to disappear. Because we don't want to say it's goblins abducting shoppers and forcing them into a life of servitude in their subterranean cities and then look like complete and utter fools when it actually turns out to be a joint operation between extraterrestrials and our own government fulfilling the treaties they signed back in 1954. Could you imagine the embarrassment if that were to happen? The BRB would never be taken seriously again.
So, you don't know what's going on.
This type of work takes years to figure out, Mr. Gnomon. Each year, with each new case we take on, we uncover a bit more of the deeper story and are finding that it's all an intricate web. The BRB is studying every strand of that web we come across to help figure out what is happening in these cases, and we will keep looking for these strands until we've found them all or run out of leads. I have my own theories that I'm very confident in on what is happening to these people, but I will abstain from that discussion in respect to the BRB bylaws until I have better evidence to prove my obviously correct theories.
All right, Pat, what's the name of the book again?
The book is called Missing on Aisle 4. Unexplained Vanishings of Shoppers That Have Never Been Explained, and it's available for purchase at any reputable mercantile right now.
Pat, I want to thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome, Mr. Gnomon. The experience has been satisfactory.
Well, that's great. For Toby Singer, Chase Salmon, Richard Head, Riley Pitts, Michael Ranch, Brandon Duvall, Megan Slayton, and Cedric Purcell, I'm Merv Gnomon. We'll see you on the next program. Until then, trust no one.